Good morning, good morning, everybody. I apologize that I'm not going to give the presentation in Swedish, but um, I will do it in English. Thank you for being listening to the presentation. Immunicom is a very exciting company, and because we are listed, I need to show you the slide. But so, what is Immunicom? Immunicom operates in the very exciting and innovating field of immuno-oncology. So we are a clinical stage company. We are in phase 2, and I will show you details. And we are developing a new cancer treatment designed to help cancer patients. And we do that by activating the patient's own immune system to attack the cancer cells. Our lead product is called ilixadencel and is currently in phase 2 to treat kidney cancer. Our goal and our mission is really to help patients to extend the survival and improve the quality of life in patients with different types of solid tumors. We were founded based in Sweden, and we are traded in the Nasdaq main market, and this happened some weeks ago, January 15th. As a company, we have 3 projects. The lead one, ilixadencel, is now in the clinic in 3 indications: kidney cancer, liver cancer, and gastrointestinal stromal tumor cancer, and we have 2 more projects in preclinical. For the purpose of the time, I'm going to focus on the lead product. So this space of immuno-oncology, that means using the patient's own immune system to attack the cancer cells, has been the one where there has been more innovation in the past years. A lot of the growth you see there, the market size in dollars, was in 2015 $17 billion, and this is primarily due to the launch in the last 2 or 3 years of a class of drugs called the checkpoint inhibitors that you see here: Opdivo, Keytruda. These are all drugs launched by the big pharmas, Bristol Myers Squibb, Merck Sharp Dome. But the important part is that this innovation is continuing in a way that you see that the expected market size in just some years is 76 billion. This is a compounded growth annually of 24%. And this is the fastest growth segment in the pharmaceutical industry, the immuno-oncology. So when you use the patient immune systems and to attack the cancer cells, you can use it in 2 different ways. On one side, you can help to block the defenses that the cancer cells create against the patient's own immune system. So this is one side of the equation. On the other side, you can activate the patient's own immune system to attack the cancer cells. So you can have these different approaches. And this is what you see here in the slide. The gray-black line was the survival of cancer patients when treated with chemotherapy. You see that then, the blue line shows the improvement in survival with the launch of this class of therapies. I told you, the checkpoint inhibitors. But now the big expectation is when you combine drugs to have different mechanisms and then further increase the survival of these patients. So how does this work? This is the cancer immunity cycle, and I use normally the example that the tumor is a castle, creates their own defenses against the patient immune system. So, it's fortified there, the immune system cells cannot get to the tumor cells. So you have one class of drugs, the ones you see on the blue side, on the right, your right side, the ones I mentioned, the checkpoint inhibitors, which role is fundamentally to destroy these defenses. So basically, they are going to destroy the big door to the castle. That's their main role, as an example. But you still need troops to then go inside the castle and kill the tumor cells. So a big problem with this class of drugs is that if the patient's immune system is not activated, so if the troops are not in big numbers and strong, it really doesn't matter that you destroyed the gate into the castle because the troops are not going to be powerful enough. So our role is to make sure that these troops that are going to be available to then go into the castle are in bigger quantities and very strong troops. So on one side, you have a class of drugs that are going to destroy the defenses, allowing the tumor cells to get in, and on the other side, you have a class of drugs like us that are going to activate, fortify the patient immune system. And this is what the expectation of the combination of these two effects to improve the patient's survival. So what is ilixadencel? What is our product? This is what you call cell-based therapy. So our treatment is based in cells, so immune cells that are originated from healthy donors, like a blood donor. So we remove cells from these donors, we fortify them with a cocktail, and then we freeze this product. And then when it's available in the hospital pharmacy, when needed, you just put it at a body temperature, and then you inject it into the tumor. So these cells, as I mentioned to you, originated from healthy donors, what makes it much easier process. From one healthy donor, at the moment, we extract about 100 doses to treat. We use 2 doses to treat, for instance, kidney cancer. So from one donor, you can treat 50 patients. So this is from a much easier process than other cell-based therapies, because as know, in terms of the cost of goods of manufacturing is not a big concern. And so the product is basically available. That's why we call it off the shelf. It's available in the hospital pharmacies, and we call it allogeneic because it's originated from healthy donors. And so this is very important in these days because it makes it easy to produce these products and to then distribute worldwide. And we currently produce in Germany. These are very specialized manufacturing plants. And then we ship it to Sweden to storage. And then currently we are distributing to 28 different hospitals where we are running the study in 8 European countries and also into the US. So basically, I will simplify this. What we do when we inject the product into the tumor, this is going to cause that the patient immune cells then are going to move actively into the site of the injection, kill the tumor cells, and release these kind of barcodes that then are taken by the patient's own immune cells. You see there on step 3. And then these cells with this barcode go into the lymph nodes, and then they are going to treat the patient particular T cells, the killer T cells. And these cells then are going to migrate through the whole body, go back to the primary tumor, but also to the metastasis. And this is very important that you are not only going to attack the primary tumor, but also the metastases that are spread through the body. We concluded already some time ago the first clinical study. This was in patients with kidney cancer that had metastasis. And what you see here, the image, is this infiltration. When you see here the second image, the dark spots is this infiltration of this tumor, specifically activated T cells that are going to attack the cancer, and how they concentrate massively in the tumor tissue. But also very important when you see on the far right, also in the metastasis. So it's not only in the primary tumor, as I mentioned to you, but important that they spread through the body and also attack the metastasis. And you can compare it here on the extreme left, what will be the normal immune reaction of the patient's system to attack these cells. So very differentiated. But I think probably is more interesting to you to show you this graph. This graph shows you the patients in this study. So there were 11 patients. And in May, when we had a publication of the study in a very prestigious journal, 5 out of 11 patients were still alive after 4 years. And some patients, 5 years and 6 years. And, this is important to say and compare that if these patients would have been treated with the standard of care, it's called sunitinib, Sutent, the expected median overall survival will be 15 to 16 months. So we more than tripled the expected survival for these patients. And of course, we continue to follow them. So very, very, a small number of patients, but very important data because, almost half of the patients were still alive and already past the 4-year mark. So this is very, very exciting data. This slide is just to show you the benefit of this combination of the different mechanisms. This patient was one classified as a poor prognosis patient. These patients are normally expected to only survive for 9 months. So we had several metastases in the liver, in the lung, and then he developed 4 brain metastases. You know what is the prognosis, the expectation in survival when you get brain metastasis. So anyway, he was treated with the standard of care after taking our product that doesn't go into the brain, so doesn't do anything to brain metastasis. So this patient in May, the last time we checked, he was still alive after 4 years. The brain metastasis had disappeared, the liver metastasis had disappeared, he had 1 small lung metastasis that was removed surgically, so he was still alive after 4 years, he had no metastasis, and this is the benefit that when you mix these 2 approaches, one reducing the number of tumor cells and giving opportunity for the patient immune system to then attack, in this case going to the brain. So this is to show really the benefit of the combinations, what now the medical community accepts that is the way of treating these patients. So after this study, we initiated a new study, now with more patients, and where you can compare 2 different groups. This study, again, in kidney cancer patients with metastasis. They were treated, 8 European countries and the US, 28 centers. We just announced at the beginning of the year that we closed the enrollment. We recruited 88 patients. 2/3 of them are in the combination study, 1/3 in the standard of care alone. And now we need to follow these patients, and we expect to get the results by third quarter 2019. Very important for treating these patients, because this other class of drugs, they have quite heavy side effects, is that our product is very safe. Basically, the side effects are fever, because you induce an inflammatory response treated with standard of care. So very good to combine with other classes of drugs that are not so well tolerated. So this is very important that our product is very safe. In addition, we have a study in collaboration with the Karolinska Hospital in a rare disease that we continue to enroll. And we also announced last year we finished the phase 1/2 in liver cancer, very terrible disease, very fast progressing. And again, we confirmed the safety. We showed that these tumor-specific cells are in circulation, showing that they go not only to the main tumor, but also to the metastasis. So the plan is in the future, to continue developing this. But now, we did a very thorough strategic analysis where we want to go as a company. And one of the new studies we are initiating mid this year is in combination with a different class of drugs, the checkpoint inhibitors, the ones that I showed in the beginning that are now in the hands of the big pharma, that are the ones driving the growth of the market. So we started also to prove the concept, doing some animal studies. And this is the preliminary results you see here. For instance, when these 10 mice in the group are treated with just the checkpoint inhibitor, after 24 days they are all dead. If they are treated with the mouse equivalent of our our compound, 30% of them are still alive. But when you combine both of them, so 50% of the animal were still alive after 24 days. Of course, we cannot extrapolate from animal data to data in humans, but just to show the power of the concept of combining the two approaches in order to improve survival. So, ilixadencel, very exciting data so far, very strong immune response, easy to manufacture, very safe, so all the characteristics to continue moving forward as a compound. And that's what we are going to do. As I mentioned to you, we are starting middle of this year a new study. We are looking now at 3 new indications: head and neck cancer, lung cancer, gastric cancer. These are all big, very big indications where these checkpoint inhibitors have a relatively modest efficacy. So we expect to show the benefit of that. So this is one of the main projects for the company. We are also going to, of course, continue to finish the current studies, and we also want to develop a new commercial project. This is the reason why we very recently raised 200 million SEK, Swedish krona, to fund the finishing of the current studies and the initiation of the study. That's what you see here. So very exciting in terms of the new indications. And these indications, the ones in green, the blue ones are the current we are doing, so also very big. You don't see the reflection here of the liver cancer, but in Asia is a major problem. Very high incidence of liver cancer, gastric cancer, lung cancer. As you know, in the Asian countries, a lot of potential there. But if you look at the new indications we are starting, you see there, and all this is in dollars, very big indications as a potential. Of course, we want to improve patient survival, but it's also for our investors a big market to penetrate. And the important part is that we are not going to compete with the big pharmas, with the BMS and the Mercks, because we are going to be used in combinations. So there's not going to be competition, it's more of a collaboration. So this is what you are going to expect to see in terms of news. This year we are going to start, we did the uplisting to the main market. We are going to start the new study. By the end of the year, we expect to get the first results of this study. And in 2019, a lot of data. The results from the current phase 2 that I show you, we just finished enrollment in kidney cancer, and also the first data in the new study showing if we have an indication of efficacy. The first go, no-go decision will also be in 19. So a lot of projects, and meanwhile, we are also continue to use this data to publish the results, to present at scientific conferences, and this is very valuable when you talk with potential specialist investors and when you talk with big pharmaceutical companies as potential partners. It's very important that you have these data that was published, because it means that someone else reviewed the data and considered it important enough to publish. So, as I mentioned to you, we are now in the main market, very important to attract new types of investors, more institutional investors, improve the turnover and liquidity of the stock, and we raised 200 million. So, we consider as an investment case that, we are a very good investment case. We operate in the very innovative, the hot area of the treatment of cancer at the moment. We have quite exciting results so far. With the move to the main market and the recent financing allows the company to be funded until the end of 2019, so allows us to focus in the business. We are creating and improving the visibility of the company, not only in Scandinavia, but also in Europe and in the US, to attract new investors and new companies. And of course, all the management team, that a lot of them were recruited recently, are invested in the company, not only in terms of the work that they deliver, but also they also participated in the issue that we just currently raised. So we we expect that, for the ones of you that are current shareholders, continue to get your support, and for the ones that are not, that you consider investing in Immunicom, because it's quite an exciting company. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Carlos. Welcome over here to my, I don't know the name in English, question corner. Maybe it's a good name. I like the explanation earlier, the slide with the castle and the troops going into the cancer tumor cells, because me and I think many here is quite novice in how all of this works. So can you give us a little bit more about when you're doing research and development in cancer treatment? Do you look at one specific cancer tumor, or do you look more broad, and how does that work?
Sure. Yeah, I really appreciate your comment, because this is a very scientific and complex area of treatment, the immuno-oncology. So it's really, I hope that I was able to transmit really how it works and the value. We operate in the solid tumors. So you've seen recently some new treatments, cell-based treatments approved for the CAR-T for the non-solid tumors, like leukemias, lymphomas. But we operate in the solid tumors. And there is a multitude of type of tumors that we can go and treat. Skin, the ones where we are treating now, kidney, liver, lung, gastric, head and neck, cervix, colorectal. So there's a lot of potential in a lot of different tumors. We just had to privilege the indications that we consider we can bring more easily show the value, but also very important in this field, because because of the innovation. There are a lot of clinical trials running, in the whole world. It was very important to select indications where we think we can recruit patients, because otherwise you can have a beautiful protocol, a beautiful study, but then it's very difficult to recruit patients. For instance, one of the indications that everybody wanted us to pursue, the skin cancer, because it's easy to inject, easy to follow. It's a very busy indication, so everybody is chasing that indication, and the current treatment is effective in 70% of the patients. So if you look at the number of patients that then are going to need a combination, very few. So we looked everywhere in the world, including Australia, and for instance, we considered that that was not the right indication for us to show the value of the concept, and that's why we chose lung, the gastric, and the head and neck, because they are big and they need new alternatives to combine with the checkpoint inhibitors. But the potential to treat different types of solid tumors is huge.
And I see a question here from the audience online, and the question is, how and when do you need more capital?
Well, as I mentioned, we raised capital that funds the company until the end of 2019. Of course, there are several other projects that we can pursue, and we have interest. So, for the current projects, we have the enough funding. If there are new interesting projects, we can find different ways of funding those specific projects. But for the time being, we are okay.
Mm. And another thing that I'm wondering is, like, there are many small companies, life science firms, doing R&D in cancer treatment. Can you give us something how Immunicom stands out from the others, like from an investor point of view?
Sure, you are absolutely right. This is, again, very busy, a lot of companies. I think there are some key differentiators of how Immunicom separates from some other companies operating in this field. The important part is that there are a lot of companies working with the checkpoint inhibitors, so with the other class. So we are not going to be confused with those. We are going to be complementary to them. And then you have other companies working with cell-based approach or with the oncolytic virus. So most of those companies are earlier in development, they are in preclinical, phase 1, 2. We are already quite advanced. We have a very unique approach that is also patent protected, but we are quite unique in the type of approach that we follow. And so this differentiation in terms of the fact that we are quite unique. We have already extended survival data. We already treated in total so far more than 90 patients, so gives us a lot of information for us also in terms of the safety. So there's a lot of differentiation for other companies operating in the space. I think it's more as a company, we are more mature, we have more data so far. But, as I said, and I'm a physician, the patient, ultimately what we want is to find the right treatments for patients. So we expect that to have different solutions because each tumor is different, each patient is different, so cancer patients need different types of alternatives.
Another thing that stands out with Immunicom is that you're actually moving now to the main market at NASDAQ. Can you give us a little bit pro and cons by having Immunicom on the small cap?
I think, the cons are not really cons, is that it's a very labor-intensive process. I think, but when you reach that goal, this means also that the company, as a company, is a more solid company as an investment. So we had to fulfill a lot of the regulations from NASDAQ. That doesn't matter if it's the NASDAQ Stockholm or the NASDAQ New York, the requirements are the same. So this means that the company is operating in a much more solid ground now, as a company, as all the procedures, the policies, the requirements. But the main benefit of being listed in the main market is that now we can attract more institutional investors that cannot invest in the First North. Not only because of the regulations, but a particular thing that people sometimes don't understand is that a lot of these specialists and big institutional investors require more liquidity, so more transactions of the shares in the market. And the First North gives very small volume of transactions. So the benefit, more visibility to not only investors in Sweden, but also in the rest of Europe and in the US. Companies are more solid, so this again gives a different degree of confidence for these big institutional investors to participate and increases the liquidity, what will attract more specialist investors, the big specialist funds.
We have a couple of minutes over. Do we have any question from the audience to call us? We got one over there. I have to repeat it before you answer.
Yeah.
The scalability isn't an issue.
One of the benefits of our process, you have a process where you need to, it's called the autologous, where you need to do biopsy, the patient is its own donor. That's very complex. So we have this benefit, first that we use healthy donors. So as I said, one donor gives us about 100 doses. But the other main benefit of this product is frozen. We already passed the 2-year shelf life, so we can build different batches that then are going to be available. And of course, one of the objectives of the company is to develop now what we call a commercial manufacturing process to improve the efficiencies. That's one of the projects that we also have as a company to develop. So when you look at cell-based therapy, we are not, it's not a big issue for us in terms of the process, but also in terms of the cost of manufacturing.
Any more questions to Carlos? Otherwise, you can take him outside here. You're
Sure,
going to be in the booth outside.
I will be outside, and then I will also have a table, so I will stay here for some more hours before going back to Gothenburg.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck, Carlos.